Hi everyone, and welcome to the last and final video of Big Kidz Club. I want to first start by introducing myself. I'm Katie, and I'm an occupational therapy student at Kane University, and I am so excited to be the leader of this video for you all today. Some more exciting news. This video will be for the parents at home. So big kids, you can either stay and watch with your parents, or you can go practice some of those skills that Petra, Diana, Rachel, and Rebecca taught you in the first 4 videos. I wanted to give you a little glimpse at what we will be covering in this last video. As seen on the syllabus, we will be discussing different ways that you can modify games at home that will simultaneously keep your kids occupied as well as work on their social skills. Parents, I'm sure by now you have all seen a mood meter floating around your house. I want to take a couple minutes and describe what exactly it is and how you can help your child use it on a daily basis. The mood meter consists of 4 different primary colors: red, blue, yellow, and green. Each color is associated with a different emotion. Now, before describing each emotion, I want you to know that there are no good or bad emotions, and that it is totally natural for your child to experience different emotions during the day. If your child says that they are feeling green today, that means they are either feeling happy, excited, or calm. If your child says that they are feeling blue, that means they are probably feeling sad, tired, or shy. If they are feeling red, that means they are feeling out of control, really excited, or hysterical. And lastly, if they choose yellow, they are feeling silly, surprised, or anxious. Now, by understanding and knowing how your child is feeling during a certain day, it can help to explain why they are behaving the way that they are. By knowing what color your child is feeling that day, you can help them by introducing some strategies that will allow them to stay on track for the day. If they are feeling yellow, ask them to shake out all their worries and silliness. If they're feeling red, ask them to do some deep breathing exercises that will calm them down. If they're feeling blue, ask if something is bothering them and allow them to rest for a little while. It may even be beneficial to ask your child what color they are feeling before going to school, after school, during conflict, or before going to bed. You can also use the mood meter to show your child how you're feeling during the day. This may help them to understand that even adults experience different emotions. Now that we've discussed the mood meter, I want to introduce some things that you can do at home that will keep your kids occupied while also working on their social skills. Keep watching to learn how to adapt 3 different games that can be played at home with family and friends. I want to first start by introducing some online platforms that your children can utilize in order to stay social while at home. Your kids can use these platforms not only now during this time at home, but also on days that they are not able to meet with friends in person. My co-leader Rebecca taught your children in the last video about Zoom, FaceTime, Google Meet, and Google Duo. These applications can be used for online playdates, so your kids can continue to work on their social skills while at home. These applications can be utilized on a phone, computer, or tablet. The kids can play board games, cards, video games, and other interests while meeting virtually, which will encourage communication and interaction even while at home. Now I want to show you some games you can modify at home that will simultaneously keep your kids occupied as well as work on their social skills. You can use any of these platforms I've referenced before while playing these games. All you will need is the modified game as well as making sure the friend who is playing along also has the game and will play along through the video chat. If you have the games Jenga, Uno, or Trouble, you can pause the video and go grab them now. Or you can just listen along and use this video as a reference for when you modify the games later on. So traditionally, Jenga is set up like this and played with 2 players or 2 teams. Each player rotates by taking out a wooden piece without letting the tower fall. When a player successfully takes out a piece, they stack it on top of the tower. I'm going to adapt it by taping questions to the pieces so that when someone pulls out a piece, they have to answer the question before getting a point. There will be 2 different categories. Half of the pieces will have written questions on them, and the other half will be color-coded. You can cut out 27 strips of paper and rotate coloring them red, green, blue, and yellow. Once they are all cut out, you will tape them to the wide side of the block. For the other half of the blocks, you will cut out 27 strips of paper and write a question. Examples of some questions you can ask are, name one trait of a good friend, or how do you feel when someone does not listen to you? I will attach a document with a complete list of 27 questions you can utilize. Once all of the game pieces are assembled, you can then build the tower. If your child pulls out a block with a color on it, they must describe or identify a feeling that is associated with that color. You can have them list a feeling, or you can have them describe an example of when they felt that color. If your child pulls out a question, they must answer it. Once answering the question, they can put the block back on top of the tower, and the next person will go. I will link a document below that consists of the full set of rules for the game. This adapted version of Jenga will encourage your children to further practice their knowledge and understanding of their feelings, along with influencing them to communicate with their peers. This game will not only give your kids ideas on questions they can ask their friends, but also allow them to communicate effectively. By using a game like this to discuss feelings, your kids will both be having fun while also practice to be successful in their social interactions with both friends and adults. Before moving on to the next game, I will play a clip of an example of how to play modified Jenga. Stay tuned, because I'm going to explain how you can adapt the card game Uno next.
I got blue. I feel sad.
I got green. I feel happy.
One trait of not a friend. They are lying.
One trait of a good friend. They might be honest. All you will need for this next game is a set of Uno cards. Traditionally, Uno is played with anywhere from 2 to 10 players. There are 4 colored cards: red, blue, yellow, and green. And each card is numbered from 0 to 9, as well as reverse, skip, or draw 2. There are additional black cards that are labeled wild card and draw 4. Each player will get 7 cards. The additional cards will be placed in a pile face down in the center of the game. One of the discard cards will be flipped over, and the first person will either match a color, number, use a wild card, or draw 4 card. Each card represents a task or question the player must do or answer. If a red card is placed in the center, the next person up must describe how they would feel if they were feeling red. If the color blue was placed in the center, the next person up would describe how they would feel if they were feeling blue. If the color green was placed in the center, the next person up must describe how they would feel if they were feeling green. Lastly, if the color yellow was placed in the center, the next person up would describe how they would feel if they were feeling yellow. If a reverse card was placed, they must ask the person if it was reversed to a question. The question could be as simple as, what is your favorite after-school snack? Or, what is your favorite thing to do in your free time? If a skip card was placed, the next person must describe some traits of a good friend that were learned in Diana's second video. You can either find these traits in Diana's video, or I will link them below. Some correct answers for this question could include honest, kind, understanding, helpful, listens, encourages, and shares. If a draw two card was placed, the next person would have to describe traits of not a friend. Some possible answers could include lying, greedy, bossy, discouraging, and cheating. If someone places a draw four card, the next person must give words of affirmation to two different people. Words of affirmation are spoken feelings that express praise or appreciation. These words can help your children practice how to communicate in a kinder manner with their peers. Lastly, if someone places a wild card, the next person has a free turn and does not need to answer a question. This modified game of Uno can help your child initiate conversation with their friends and adults, which can help them to be more confident going forward in their social communication skills. I will link a document down below that you can print out and will list the new rules of the game. Before moving on to the next game, I'm going to show a short clip of how to play modified Uno. So everyone has 7 cards. We're going to flip over the first card. It's a green 3, and Matthew's going to start.
I have a green 8. A feeling associated with green is happy.
I have a green reverse, which switches it back to Matthew. Matthew, what's your favorite video game?
My favorite video game is Fortnite. I have a green 9. A feeling associated with green is calm.
I have a blue 9. A feeling associated with blue is shy.
I have a blue reverse, which switches it back to Katie. Katie, what's your favorite fruit?
My favorite fruit is watermelon. I have a yellow reverse. Ryan, what is your favorite thing to do in your free time?
Play video games with my brother. I have a yellow 3. I'm feeling really silly.
For the last and final modified game, all you will need is the game Trouble. The game consists of a board with a red, yellow, green, and blue side, along with a dice in the center. Each player is assigned to a color and must roll the number 6 before starting. Once they achieve a roll of 6, they will move their piece to the starting position. Players will then roll the dice, which will determine how many spaces they move their piece. If a player lands on a peg that is already occupied by another player's color, the existing player's piece moves back to its starting position. This continues until the first player successfully moves all 4 pieces around the board. Now, for some ways to modify the game. Since we've already touched on how to use friendship traits and conversation pieces in Uno and Jenga, we are going to utilize conflict resolution strategies in this next game. If another player's piece lands on a peg with an existing color in it, that existing color needs to go home. This will also be the case if another player's piece is in your start space. If this happens, the existing player who is sent home will need to give an example of one good way to deal with conflict and one not so good way to deal with conflict. I will link a document below with a list of good and not so good ways to deal with conflict. Some examples of good ways to deal with conflict include cool off, be polite, pause before responding, propose a solution, be honest, be understanding, and listen carefully. Some examples of some not so good ways to deal with conflict include being discouraging, mean, lying, being a sore loser, stealing, or being bossy. Since it is common for a player's piece to be sent home, the players may state all of the different good and not so good ways to deal with conflict. If this is the case, a player should give an example of a time they experienced conflict and if they dealt with it in a good or not so good way. If they stated a not so good way they dealt with the conflict, ask them to explain how they could have handled the situation differently, and vice versa. As I stated previously, I will attach a document that includes all of the new rules of trouble down below. I also added a short clip of how to play adapted trouble to give you a visual representation of how it will be played. No. Okay, so we're in the middle of a game. Matthew is green, Ryan is yellow, and I'm red. Go ahead, Matthew.
I roll a 4. I land on Ryan, so I send him home.
One not so good way I can deal with conflict is by being discouraging. One good way I can deal with conflict is to cool off. I rolled a 3. I land on Katie's piece, so I get to send her home.
One not so good way that I can deal with conflict is to be mean, and one good way I could deal with conflict is to be polite. I rolled a 6. I landed on Matthew's green piece, so I'm going to send him home.
One not so good way I deal with conflict is by lying. One good way I deal with conflict is by proposing a solution.
Before we move on, I wanted to review some of the main points of each game. The modified game of Jenga and Uno will allow for better understanding of different feelings by identifying emotions and times your kids have felt those emotions, as well as ideas of questions they can ask their friends to better hold a conversation. The game of Trouble will help to practice conflict resolution by having them identify good and not so good ways they can handle conflict with both their friends and family. Before we leave each other, I wanted to quickly review some important topics that were discussed in previous videos. In the first video, Petra introduced the mood meter and how to make it. Since I already discussed this with you a little while ago, I won't go into much detail. I do want to remind you that this can be an integral piece in your child's ability to understand their feelings. It can also help you to try to recognize why your child might be behaving a certain way. Don't forget about some of those tips I gave you so you can assist in helping mediate their feelings like deep breathing, taking a break, or dancing around to get the sillies out. Diana's friendship lesson described the traits of a good friend and a not so good friend. She helped the kids to be able to identify traits of a friend they would like versus traits of a friend they wouldn't like. You can also practice by asking your child to be the type of friend they would want to have. Rachel's video depicted different scenarios regarding conflict resolution. Being able to deal with conflict properly is an important aspect needed for being successful socially. Rachel described good ways to deal with conflict and not good ways to deal with conflict. You can practice good conflict resolution at home with your child as well. Lastly, Rebecca's video was all about ways to stay social while at a distance. She included information about different platforms to use, as well as a bingo game and a homemade game of Twister. As it's already time to wrap up, I want to thank you again for tuning into this special edition of Big Kidz Club. I implore all of you to try and encourage your kids to utilize these new skills that they've learned over the past 5 weeks. I wish you luck in navigating this new normal and stay well. I have a few last words for your kids before we go our separate ways.
Hello everyone, this is Petra from Video Session 1. I just want to stop by and send a quick message to everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well. Stay positive and stay safe. Bye!
Bye guys, good luck and stay positive.
Just want to say bye to all my friends at Big Kidz Club. Good luck with the rest of your school year, and I hope you guys have a great summer.
Hi everyone, I had a great time working with you all on Big Kidz Club and I hope you did too. Bye, stay strong.